So Zacky's using the 150-500 to focus on me as we see an iguana there.
Hey, you recording?
Look at this critter. Let's go closer, Zacky.
Oh!
Hello, iguana. Hello. Do not run away. Don't go. Ah, you left. Did you get him, Zacky? Did you get him? It's raining really heavy. No wonder he wants to go underneath the trees. I should do the same. I'm not built for this. My hair definitely is not. Hey everybody, what is going on? Yes, I'm on a brand new channel, but I'm still here to talk about cameras. In my hands today is the all-new Tamron 150-500 F5-6.7 on the Sony Alpha 1. What is this combo like to use? We're going to talk all about that. But before we get into that, I do want to answer some of those questions you might be having. Yes, I did move over from Tech 360 to Geek Culture. Yes, I'll be talking about other things besides cameras, but I'm still going to focus on cameras and videography and all that great stuff because this is my passion, like yours as well, and I'm super excited about being here with the new team. Zachy, are we going to call this camera culture? What are we going to call this exactly?
Click culture, maybe.
Click culture, maybe. We don't know yet. We'll find out, but just bear with us as we grow through this and build this journey together. So with that, guys, let's talk about the all-new Tamron. Okay, so we're not paid or sponsored for this review. My thoughts and my thoughts only. We're going to talk about the lens. We'll also talk about the performance on the Alpha 1, but that will be coming out throughout this review. But let's focus on the lens first. Now, Tamron has been known to make some fantastic, very attractive priced Sony E-mount lenses over the past couple of years. We're actually using the 28-75 on the Sony a7 III to record this currently. And this super zoom lens from Tamron, I think, is going to attract a lot of people. Case in point, the price is around 2,000 Singapore dollars plus some free gifts if you pre-order, which is very attractive for a 150-500 super zoom lens. Now, it is an f5-6.7. It's a variable aperture lens, but for a 150-500, it's not super heavy. It's not that light. It's right in the middle, which I guess you could say is just right. But let's talk about some of the features on this lens. You have a lock switch, so of course this locks it from extending on its own inside your bag. Then you also have a lock mode on the focus ring here. So whatever focal range I'm at, I can actually lock it and I'm going to stay there, which is a nice addition to have. It is a telescopic zoom lens. I prefer an internal zoom, but again, that does make a lens a lot heavier and it does cost a little bit more. So this lens is what it is, but it still performs beautifully. We'll talk about the image quality later on. Let's talk about the various different modes and switches you have on this. You have 3 different VC modes. You have VC mode 1, 2, and 3. This is Tamron's image stabilization on the lens. You have VC on and off, AF and MF, and of course you have full 3 meters and 15 meters for your focal range in terms of how it autofocuses. You are pretty much covered in that regard what most other super zoom lenses have. This has it inside it. Tripod ring here as well. You can turn it around, or you can actually take it off, which is a nice addition to have. Some of the Sony lenses actually have this mount attached to the bottom of the lens directly. This has that ring, so to each their own. I actually like this option because it does give you that, variation, however you want to set it up. And then you have the lens hood, which is a plastic lens hood, but it is pretty durable with rubber tip at the end of it. So do knock into something, it will protect it. And of course, you're not going to get those scratches on the end of your hood, or they won't show as badly. It's a welcome addition. It's a pretty robust plastic. It's not too big of a lens hood, which is nice. So that's pretty much the lens in a nutshell. Let's talk about what's inside. A bad place to put a bag. Ah, fuck. All right. There was ants all over the bag. Right outdoors, sweating and all that fun stuff. So let's talk about what's inside of this lens. We have 25 elements, 16 groups. We of course have an 82mm on the filter diameter on this. The weight comes in at, as I said, 1.9 kg, 4.2 pounds. Of course, you have close focusing on this up to 60 cm. So that gives you sort of that pseudo macro capabilities that we're used to seeing on other Tamron E-mount lenses. You're also going to find it in this 150-500. Now, obviously, this is a full frame lens, but if you want to use it in APS-C mode, especially on the Alpha 1, you are going to extend the range of this lens quite significantly, around 700 plus millimeters thereabouts at your longest focal range. So this is a very competent lens in that regard, and it has very fast autofocusing motors in it. So I can tell you, we'll talk about performance in just a bit, but just right here, just a little bit of a Cliff Notes version. It autofocuses about the same speed as a native Sony G Master or G lens on the Alpha 1. With that, let's talk about what it's like to use. Let's clear one elephant in the room out right away. You're not going to get 30 frames per second with the Alpha 1 with this 150-500. Now, this is something that we were told about from Sony initially with this camera, that third-party lenses, you're not going to get that optimal performance out of the camera system, and that is true with this 150-500. In terms of what my frame count is, it's around 15 to 20 frames thereabouts per second. That's a rough estimate. I was trying to time it, but it's around thereabouts. Not set it with release mode on the shutter button, of course, AFC at H+. So I have it set optimally, but that is unfortunately what it is. But it's not a deal breaker because, to be honest with you, as I mentioned previously when I did talk about the Alpha 1, is that the 30 frames per second only lasts about 5 seconds before the buffering kicks in on this camera. So pretty much 20 frames per second thereabouts is where you're going. That's your sweet spot with this camera system. Even though it can do 30, you're not always going to want to use 30 because it's a lot of images to clear, and especially in your post-editing process, it's a lot of images to delete as well, because with 30 frames, it's every little bit minute of a second. Now, of course, if you're birding or into wildlife, those images might count a little bit more, but for a lot of the average photographers out there, you won't miss a thing with this system. But in terms of autofocus, as I mentioned earlier, there is no difference using this lens versus a native G Master or G lens from Sony. I took this to the zoo. I shot a variety of different images with it. It is fast, it is precise. Eye tracking works great on animals. Sony's animal eye tracking, of course, is getting better and better. In terms of human eye tracking, it's fantastic. No issues at all in terms of autofocusing. Now, in terms of the VC modes on this, now, Sony's not known to have the best image stabilization in their camera systems, and even with this VC mode on this system, super stable. Again, it's okay, it definitely does help, but when you are at 500 millimeters, or if you're in APS-C mode, you're around 700+ millimeters, you are gonna see a little bit of camera shake. So, of course, at those ranges, a lot of people will be using a monopod or a tripod, especially if they're gonna be doing birding or wildlife, so it won't be much of an issue for you. But if you're gonna go handheld with this, do take note that you are gonna see a little bit of camera shake and lens shake with this setup. Besides that though, the images are very sharp. Tamron's always been known to have some very pleasing images coming out of the lens, and the same with this one. Great bokeh, great fall off. I have no issues at all with the quality of image coming from this lens whatsoever. Images have a nice little saturation to them, a nice little punch to them. The colors look fantastic, especially with the Alpha 1. If you want to shoot in acetone or just shoot in just no profile at all, you're gonna be very happy with the performance color-wise out of this lens. Okay, so in terms of when the aperture changes, at 150 we are at f5. Then if we move to about 250, goes to 5.6. At 400, a little over 400, we're at 6.3. And at 500, 6.7. So pretty decent. Of course, if we go to APS-C mode, that will extend it even further. So, and the close focusing on this, as you can tell, I'm about 3.5 meters, 4 meters, and I'm actually able to focus on him at 500 millimeters on this lens. That's pretty impressive. So now we're testing video on the 150-500 on Zaki's Sony A7 III. We're at 500 millimeters right now, and of course, it's locked onto me. All is great. Now, why would you use video for a lens like this? Well, if you're a private investigator, if you do want to do some video of birds in flight or wildlife or a sporting event, this lens does come in handy in that regard. Now, I'm actually going to walk closer to the lens. It's okay, guys. Come on. Don't be shy. It's okay. All good. This is going to track me a little bit. As we're going to see, the eye tracking is still really good, just like a native Sony lens. Now, the VC will be a little bit hit and miss. Of course, this is a much heavier lens, so we're using a monopod in this regard. But as you can tell, it is sticking on me pretty well. And Zaki is mastering the 150-500. And it's starting to rain a little bit, Zaki, to be honest with you. I mean, lens is weather resistant. We're not worried about that. My hair is not, but we're not worried about my hair. It's more about the lens, right? Actually, I'm worried about my hair. Won't look good on camera, but it is what it is. So my final thoughts on this lens as it's starting to pour rain down on me, but it's weather resistant, so no issues at all. I really like this lens for what it is. The price point around 2,000 Singapore dollars, around 1,300 US dollars thereabouts. It's a fantastic performing lens at that price. Now again, it will not give you the optimal performance like you're gonna see on a native Sony G Master lens or G lens at 30 frames per second on the Alpha 1, but it will get you around 15 to 20 frames per second, which is more than adequate. And for most people out there, they've captured some beautiful images, even with that high burst mode on that. Image quality is fantastic. It's sharp, great bokeh on this, very controlled on the aberration. and it's just a fantastic performing lens. I do wish VC was a little bit better implemented. It's a little bit shake here and there, and I do wish this wasn't a 6.7 lens, but ended up to be a 5.6 lens at its maximum aperture or wide open aperture in that regard. But for the price point, I really can't complain. Anyway, those are my thoughts on the lens. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Do you agree with me? Is this a lens you're looking to pick up? I would love to hear from you guys. Anyway, thank you for joining me here at Geek Culture. Stay safe, take care, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, like this video. Helps out our channel quite a bit. With that, guys, take care, stay safe, and I'm gonna get out of the rain now. Bye.